So it says, chapter 21. It says, later Jesus appeared again. This is the third time he appears to them after he's been crucified on the cross. He appeared again to his disciples beside the Sea of Galilee. This is how it happened. Several of the disciples were there. Simon Peter, Thomas, nicknamed the twin, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 other disciples. Simon Peter said, I'm going fishing. How many of you ever been to a place where you just get, you're beside yourself? I had a little bit of that yesterday. Just beside myself. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to go do something. I'm going to go take a ride. How many of you ever been frustrated? Say, you know what? I'm getting out of here. I'm getting in the car. Where are you going? I don't know. But I'm going somewhere. You just get frustrated. You have a day at work, or the kids act up, or an employer comes to you and just runs one upside and down the other. You say, you know what? I'm going somewhere. I'm going on my bike. Well, I'll go with you. No, I don't want you to go with me. I'm going somewhere. And Peter was fed up. He'd watched all this, been with him 3.5 years, and finally said, you know what? I've had it. I'm going fishing. And they said, well, we're going with you. And that's what happened. Just like any other day, right? You get frustrated, say you're going fishing. And so that's what they did. It says, we'll come too, they all said. So they went out in the boat, but they caught nothing all night. I don't know what kind of fishermen we got in here, but most of you are probably 15-minute fishermen. You fish for 15 minutes, you say, this is useless. There ain't no fishing here. You know what fishing teaches? Patience. Patience. I told somebody the other day, I said, you ever take your son fishing? They said, well, it's kind of busy. I don't really get a chance. I said, listen, whatever you do, take your son fishing. Because there's nothing else to do. You're holding the pole, they're holding the pole. Usually if you go fishing, if you wanted me to show you what it looks like this. And just like this. And you wait, and you wait, and you wait. And pretty soon you find something to say. You talk about something, talk about the weather, a lot of times things will come up. You talk about them. You just stand there fishing. Oh, I think I got a bite. And then everything changes. Right? Now you're concentrating on this. But until that happens, you're concentrating on everything else. You say things like, look at the stars. And, boy, there's a lot of sand out here, And you got a booger in your nose. And things you just keep on, whatever it is you're talking about, you talk about it. So, you do that. And it goes on and says, all night, at dawn, the sun's coming up, Jesus was standing on the beach, but the disciples couldn't see who he was. There's one, I think it's in Matthew, where it counts that he was broiling fish for them. He had a fish already going, had the coals going, already waiting for him. Here he is on the seashore, and he's waving to them, right? Standing on a beach, but the disciples couldn't see who he was. He called out, hey, fellows. One interpretation says, children, have you caught any fish? Now, I can imagine what some of you would say. No, we haven't caught a thing. All night long. We've been out here all night long. We ain't caught nothing. And that's what they said. We haven't caught nothing. And he said to them, throw out the net on the right side of the boat and you'll get some. Now, I know if you're probably like Jesse, he'd probably say, hey, is this some kind of a joke? Hey, who are you? Are you Captain Fisherman or something? What do you know about the lake we don't know? Are you a warden? What gives you the right to tell us we're professionals? Don't tell us where to throw our nets. But they listened. Threw the nets on the right side of the boat. It says, and they couldn't haul in the net because there were so many fish in it. I don't know what you'd do, but that would probably scare me straight. The guy standing on the beach, and he tells me where to throw my net, and I throw it. I've been out all night long. I haven't caught a single thing, and I catch them. And it says right here, then the disciples that Jesus loved said to Peter, it's the Lord. It's the dude, man. Nobody puts fish in a net like that. When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his tunic, for he had stripped for work, naked as a jaybird, jumped into the water and headed for shore. The others stayed with the boat and pulled the loaded net to the shore, for they were only about 100 yards from shore. When they got there, they found breakfast waiting for them. I love this guy. I just love the Master. That he'll cook for me, that he even cares about my food. And he's broiling fish for me. There's not even 12 guys there. There's like 8. But he's broiling fish for them. He said, "Yeah, this is for future. I got your dinner covered." It says that fish cooking over a charcoal fire and some bread. "Bring some of the fish you've just caught," Jesus said. So Simon Peter went aboard and dragged the net to shore. There were 153 large fish, and yet the net hadn't torn. Now, Bruce and I were talking about this morning. I don't think anything's in the Bible, just throw it in there. Why would there be 153 fish? Could have been 154, 162, 179. Could have been 20, 40, 60. Why is there 153 fish? I'll just throw something out to you. I didn't get a revelation from the Lord. I just use numbers that are in the Bible. 1 is the number of God. The Lord God, He is one. 5 is the number of grace. And 3 is the number of the Spirit. He's showing you, look, guys, it's a new day. From this day forward, you'll catch lots of fish. Because I've given you the power. I'm going to live on the inside of you. I've given you the ability to do exactly what I've done. Remember, He was telling them all along, the things that you see me do, you'll do greater than these. And the net, what about the net? Well, the net probably only holds 50 or 60 fish. And you see this net right here? See the holes in it? If you see, it says in one of the scriptures that they were mending their nets. Because you know, how many have ever been jabbed by a fin from a fish? If you haven't, you haven't been fishing. You've got to be jabbed by a fish. I remember one time a friend of mine, Wayne, dear friend of mine, until I got saved, then he left me. Didn't want no part of me after that. We used to go on the pier all the time. I don't know what an alligator fish is. They're real skinny and long, and they've got a big, long mouth, about like they look like a barracuda, baby barracuda. And you catch them on the pier and stuff. And he caught one, and he was showing everybody. We were out there for hours. Man, it was way in the night. And he's like, look, I caught this thing just about that time. He had it by the tail, just reached around, whap, got him on the thumb. And he's going like this, and blood is just pouring down on the fish and stuff. I thought, why would you do that? I mean, it's not like you don't see the teeth on the thing. It's just like when a dog growls, you realize, hey, he's got the ability to bite. If he's got gums, it's a different story. But when he's got teeth, it's not good. And so there's this whole thing about fish. He said, now come and have some breakfast. Jesus said, none of the disciples dared to ask him, who are you? They knew it was the Lord. Then Jesus served them the bread and the fish. This was the third time Jesus had appeared to his disciples since he had been raised from the dead. After breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter. How many ever go to lunch with people? Go to lunch. Somebody says, hey, you want to have lunch? And I've said this time and time again. Usually what happens during that lunch period, some dirt's going to come out. Either you're going to tell it or they're going to tell it. I'm going to tell you, I wanted to ask you about something. I wanted to talk to you about something. That's why it's so good to go with your kids. Just let them pour out. Just let them tell you what's going on. If you don't spend any time, you can never find out. And I don't know what it is, but food brings out the beast in people. It does. Kristen's laughing. Especially the way some of them eat, right? She's like, whoa, have at it, Jack. If you not that Jack, but just a general term. So here's what he says to them. Now listen. It's Spanish, that's right. They've been out all night. They're exhausted. They've just seen a miracle. All the fish. They know it's the Lord. They've been frustrated because Jesus just died on the cross. Now he's not around anymore. And they appear to him. He appears to them. And so they're back together now. And after lunch is over, or breakfast is over, this is what he says. He looks at Simon Peter, and says this to him. Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, Peter replied, you know I love you. Then feed my lambs, Jesus told him. Jesus repeated the question. Simon, son of John, do you love me? Yes, Lord, Peter said, you know I love you. Then take care of my sheep, Jesus said. A third time he asked him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt that Jesus asked the question a third time. He said, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. Jesus said, then feed my sheep. I tell you the truth. When you were young, you were able to do as you liked. You dressed yourself and went wherever you wanted to go. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and others will dress you and take you where you don't want to go. Jesus said this to let him know but what kind of death he would glorify God. Then Jesus told him, follow me. Peter turned around and saw behind them the disciple Jesus loved, the one who had leaned over to Jesus during supper and asked, who is that? He knows. It's John. John was called the beloved disciple because he laid his head on Jesus' bosom. He said, what about him, Lord? Jesus replied, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? As for you, follow me. So the rumor spread among the community of believers that this disciple wouldn't die. But that isn't what Jesus said at all. He only said, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? This disciple is the one who testifies to these events and has recorded them here. And we know that this account of these things is accurate. Jesus also did many other things. If they were all written down, I suppose the whole world could not contain the books that would be written. That's an actual letter from an actual person that was actually with Jesus. Now, all the stuff that we've got here, we're going to close at the end of the month. I threw all this up there, and you might say, this is really nice. It's nice. It's so nice that a woman walks in for a funeral, and God uses this to do that. You see how that works? I don't understand. It's the same way when you go fishing for people. Listen, if you're born again, you have to have a heart for people. I mean, I drive by in the car sometimes, just break down crying because I see people and I think, God, do they even know you? What are the kids going through? Some kids are going through absolute hell. They're in torment all the time, and they're trying to make it. And we have no idea what kind of lives they go through. There are people just like this one that came in here. I mean, I don't know what I'd do if a drunk person hit my kid. And every day I was faced with that fact, that they will never be the same. What an act of forgiveness to actually say, I forgive you for what you did. It's impossible in our understanding. It takes something greater to do that. That's why for those of you that are here and your families or your friends, what can someone do to you that would absolutely say, I will never, ever speak to you again?